Welcome back to the land of bourbon and bad decisions. This is the Relentless Daring Podcast, live on podbean.com. Thank you all so much for tuning in, because here we are engaged in the relentless daring pursuit of truth, justice, and American jackassery. Got some weird things going on right now. And, I will let it be known later on what's going on with everything as it's going. But for the moment, surprises in store. Hello, Kim. Hello, Steve. Welcome into the chat box here. Glad to have you here. All right, so for those of you who are not able to be on here live and be interacting with the show, the about for today's show is New York versus Antivaxxers. So I was made aware of legislation going through the New York Assembly that could have some very, very scary effects for people who choose not to get vaccines because it's got the mercury and the fluoride and the blah, 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 and all this other crazy stuff is why vaccines are bad and they're going to kill you. There's also religious groups, certain vaccines, because of how they are made. There are certain sects of the Jewish faith that they're not kosher. And obviously there's other religious groups that say we can't do this for certain whatever reasons. Can't mass vaccines turn the frogs gay. I don't know. I would have to go with Alex Jones on that. Maybe he would know. But that's neither here nor there. Someone's trying to get me into doing an Alex Jones impersonation. It's not going to work, Kim. But yeah, anyways, one of the shows that I listen to on the daily, yesterday they had a New York radio host on, and she was talking about, she called it the concentration camp bill. I'm just like, wait, concentration camp? And she kind of glossed over it, hit the high points of it, where in the state of New York, they're trying to make it to where if you're not getting vaccinated, if you're not vaccinating your children, they can come in and, kind of like the red flag laws, there's no due process, and just, you know what, you're just going to go over here where you're not going to get anyone else sick. And I reached out via the Twitters to this person, which, by the way, this is Shannon Joy. She's a talk radio host out of New York. Truth be told, I do not always agree with what she has to say. And so my natural Missouri tendency is to have some doubts and be skeptical. So I reached out to her on Twitter and said, hey, that's really interesting. I heard you talking about this. Could you send me a link? Oh, she didn't just send me a link to a story. She sent me a link to the actual bill as it's sitting in committee right now in the New York Senate. And I know what we're all thinking. This is coming up because of all the coronavirus stuff. Scuba Steve wants to know, is there a number people can call Ivan? No, there's not. I don't have the phone call abilities yet, so sorry, you're just going to have to deal with listening to me rant and TED Talk my way through this. But anyways, she sent me the bill and I got to reading it, and it's pretty scary. I'm going to go into it here in a minute. But a lot of people think something like this pops up because, it's an emergency, and in the words of Rahm Emanuel, you don't let an emergency go to waste. But I got to looking. It's actually on the website that this bill has been floating around for several years. Really since New York began waging a public information war against anti-vaxxers, trying to paint them all as bad, horrible people. I know last year it was starting to get pretty hot and heavy, but it's been going on for a while. Kim says she thinks Hitler tried this. It didn't turn out well. Yeah, we tried this. It didn't turn out so well. However, the state of New York, rather, they can rest assured that thanks to this wonderful, wonderful legal concept called stare decisis, because the Korematsu decision during World War II, where the Supreme Court said, no, it's perfectly legal, it is perfectly acceptable to take a group of people whom you don't trust for XYZ reasons and put them into, well, we don't want to call them concentration camps. That would be bad. But you can intern them. You can detain them. You can put them in a segregated housing facility with other like-minded individuals who don't necessarily agree with the political code. Kind of like a gulag. And that's the scary part of it. So, getting into this bill is entitled... Wow, I need to get some zoom on my eyes here. Oh my goodness, where the heck? It's in the Assembly Health. They do. Assembly Bill A99. This is the 2019-2020 legislative session. History is repeating itself, Kim says. So sad we haven't learned. I know, right? It would. Unfortunately, it's going to keep repeating itself because we either don't learn or we go, I think we can do it better. Anyways, this is Assembly Bill A99. This quote, relates to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases who are potentially dangerous to the public health. This is not these people are sick and they've somehow gotten smallpox and we haven't had smallpox existing in the world in 50 years. Which, by the way, I've been immunized against that twice, so they cannot detain me for not being immunized. So, first of all, the fact that they're giving wiggle room to potentially dangerous to the public health, that's right there alone should give pause. But then going through actually reading the bill, introduced by M. of A. Perry, read once and referred to the Committee on Health, an act to amend the public health law in relation to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases who are potentially dangerous to public health. Blah, and then legally, blah, 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 blah. And let's see, Steve says, quote, I could have sworn we had laws dealing with this. Some document was written a long time ago protecting people's right to privacy and due process. The Constitution, was that it? Yes. There is this thing called the Constitution. However, over the years, courts at many levels, to include the Supreme Court, has ruled that in the event of a public health emergency, the public good trumps, no pun intended, your rights because it's for the greater good. I was not able, this is on me that I haven't gone through and looked up some of these court rulings that says, where, the state wins over your rights, which that's on me. But again, this goes to stare decisis, where it's not constitutional law. It's not looking at, okay, can they do this? Is this in line with the Constitution? It's gone from, well, someone before us said it's in line with the Constitution, so it's going to stand. Which is part of the reason why I don't necessarily trust Justice Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court when it comes to Roe versus Wade, because he, during his confirmation hearing, he lauded the principle of stare decisis, and you just can't overturn principle, decisions that were made. It's like, yeah, you can. Plessy versus Ferguson. That's what gave us separate but equal. Am I right? Well, then we got Brown versus Board of Education, where they ruled with the Brown family and said, no, separate but equal is wrong. Of course, if you read through the decision, you will see that they made the right ruling for all of the absolutely wrong reasons, but that's neither here nor there. So, and yeah, I know, Steve, it's not what the Constitution says, and yeah, they
Sure, I understand.
Apparently Siri is getting involved in this conversation, so I'm going to turn her off there for a second. Yeah, and I understand that, yes, our rights to assemble, our rights to blah, 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 all these rights that we have that are enshrined in the Constitution. Courts in the past have decided, no, the states do have the right to do this. Now, I say states, the individual United States, not the federal government. That is why a state can come in and say, this is what we're doing in order to fight this, but the federal government is staying hands off, which I will give all of this that's been going on credit for making the 9th and 10th Amendments, making them actually matter again. Especially the fact that you have people who are throwing an absolute fit that state, local governments and private business are making decisions, we're going to close X, Y, and Z, and then turn around, well, why isn't the government doing this? Well, it's because it's not the federal government's job. The state of Missouri is responsible for the state of Missouri. The state of Missouri, because of all the issues with logistics and shutting down things because of COVID-19, they're allowing semis to run over 80,000 pounds gross weight. Like I said, that is all part of this whole concept of federalism. Not the misguided idea of federalism, or the federal government. That is where all the power comes from. No. But anyways, getting back into this bill, it's absolutely scary. Let's see. The public health law is amended by adding a new section, 2120-A, to read as follows. Removal and detention of cases, contacts, and carriers who are or may be a danger to public health. Other orders. 1. The provisions of this section shall be utilized in the event that the governor declares a state of health emergency due to an epidemic of any communicable disease. Okay, so if the governor decides it, but as you read through it, it basically boils down to who the governor can say, this group of people who said for whatever reason they choose not to vaccinate. Now keep in mind, the same people who are writing this bill who say it's my body, my decision, I can do what I want with my body, I have bodily autonomy. They're the same ones who are going, look at my hypocrisy flag, because yes, it's your body, but it's not your choice because it's for the greater public good. Just going to let that marinate for a second. The same people who say, my body, my choice, my bodily autonomy, are saying if you use your body, your choice, your bodily autonomy to say, I'm not putting this flu vaccine, this hepatitis A, B, tetanus shot, COVID-19 vaccine when it gets done, I'm not putting this in my body. If you say that, they can determine that, oh my gosh, there's a flu outbreak, and this group of people did not get flu shots. We must do something. And then they decide, Kim says, sounds like a walking contradiction on their part. Absolutely. And that's the part that really just kind of, it's mind-boggling. So then the governor, if he declares an epidemic emergency because, oh my God, we've had this many people get the flu, schools are shutting down because there's so much sickness. And I'll be honest, I have been in schools where the flu has gone around so bad that they have closed school because of the flu. So many kids are getting sick. There's like, you know what? We're going to take a couple days off, kind of let people get over it. So governor determines that, okay, I'm declaring an emergency for an epidemic. And then he appoints the commissioner who is over all of the local health departments. He's going to say, hey, Bob, you are now in charge of making sure all this goes into effect. Make sure we're getting testing done, make sure you're recording who all's got the flu, blah, 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 blah. And start going through having hospitals give up those ever wonderful health records. Find out who hasn't been vaccinated. I don't have any creepy music, or else I'd be playing creepy music in the background.
No, you look like an idiot.
That damn producer gets me every time. So, oh yes, HIPAA violations, I know, but Kim, it's for the public good. We just can't have people wandering around all willy-nilly without vaccinations. And even then, if it's they have to be reported whenever someone has the flu. Oh, well, they got the flu, but, they weren't vaccinated. That's not good. So we're going to send that information up to the state. Oh, it turns out the whole family does not vaccinate for whatever reason. They don't have a legitimate health reason to not vaccinate, such as being immunocompromised. So now, here they can all potentially have the flu. There is a flu epidemic. So now they can go, you know what? All y'all get in the van. You're going over to that hospital or to this makeshift hospital. I don't have the flu. I don't get the flu vaccine, so I guess I will be in internment camp. Well, going through this, they do make exceptions for if you have a medical reason to not get a vaccination. Again, if you're immunocompromised because you're going through cancer treatments, if you're have an autoimmune disorder, something like that, they do make exceptions for, because obviously you cannot medically receive a vaccination if the vaccination is just going to destroy your body because you can't fight it off. But I digress. So, like I said, there's an entire group, there's an entire sect of the Jewish faith that we cannot get this vaccine because of, pardon me, because of the way it's produced. It's not kosher. We cannot put non-kosher things into our body. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but congratulations. We're going to take all of you Jewish people who can't have this vaccine, and you're going to go into this walled-off community. I know it sounds like Poland and Jewish people being put into a ghetto, but really it's not. We'll let you out eventually if you decide to bend the knee and get the shot, or until we deem the health emergency is no longer an emergency. Well, I hope to God they will never declare that cervical cancer is on the rise, and it's an epidemic, and those parents who, for whatever scientific, religious, we're just kind of crazy out there with our tinfoil hats reasons to not get the HPV vaccine, someone like me, because there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that it can have really, really bad effects on teenagers. Well, guess what? Your kid could be spreading it around. We're taking your kid. And this is scary that they're using this. The worst part is this bill is not new. It was Assembly Bill 680 in 2017-2018 session. It was Assembly Bill 6891 in the 2015-2016 session. This is they're using this as an opportunity to push it through because they can. Steve says, now at establishing laws that interfere with the free practice of religion. Of course the government will find a way to prove it doesn't. Absolutely. For instance, here in Missouri, with all the shenanigans going on related to COVID-19, Governor Parsons has issued an executive order limiting gatherings to no more than 10 people, with exceptions. If you are a place of business and you're trying to stay open and you have more than 10 employees, you can all come to work. And most importantly, churches. Now, if individual churches choose to stay open, that's on them. We love our church. However, we will not be attending church because of everything that's going on. Even our Bible study, we chose to play it safe, and we used Zoom to set up a meeting, and we did our church meeting on our Bible study online, because we still want to have the fellowship, be able to discuss the Bible study that we're doing, but we don't want to unnecessarily expose anyone to any potential infection from this virus. And especially, we've already had a couple cases in our area that have tested positive, so that's kind of scary. I'm in that position where I'm trying not to be overly worried about it, but at the same time, I still want to play it safe. Let's see. Kim says Governor Evers has done the same, and her church is now online. And that's fine. I think that's 100% acceptable, because we should be able to, gather in any way, but, I don't think the state needs to come in and say churches shut down. And just reading this bill is just absolutely horrifying to think that, oh my God, in America they can randomly choose a group of people and have them interred because, they don't like X, Y, and Z because of some religious belief, some individual belief that, they're being poisoned by these supposed medicines, that, they don't want to get shot. And because you don't want to get shot, you can be interned for an indeterminate amount of time. And, your kids can be taken from you. Obviously you will lose your job if you're not there because, the state of New York came in and frog marched you off to a fenced-in abandoned hotel that, and for the time being, is going to be a makeshift medical treatment facility. It's nuts. I mean, it's absolutely crazy everything that's going on. And earlier I mentioned, business being shut down, and I have to do this. Talking about the wonderful United Soviet Republic of California. Governor Gavin Newsom has come out and said that, stay home. Do not go to work. You can only leave your house if you're going to medical appointments. You're going to the pharmacy. You're getting groceries. Well, all this is all well and good, until you start looking at the second and third order effects I was talking about last week. When you do something, and then the ripple effects as a result of that choice. In this case, this affects me and where I work, all the way here in Missouri. Because, as you know, I do not do this podcast as a sole source of income. Steve asked, if nobody's going to work, how are there any places to get groceries? Again, they've gone through and said, X, Y, and Z places are essential. Grocery stores, doctors' offices, pharmacies, media, because it's absolutely essential to have media personalities out there getting infected. I'm just going to let that one sit for a second. But one of the industries, and it's really big in California, that's been hit is wine. Because right now, there are no wineries accepting barrels that they can have on hand when they start pressing grapes later this summer. And, that's weird. I work at a place that builds wine barrels and sends them to California. Wait. Are you saying that they are making decisions that are affecting interstate commerce? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So now, at the plant where I work that builds wine barrels, as well as whiskey barrels, I would say about 1/3 of the plant has now been displaced and moved to other departments because, the plant, in all of its wisdom, they're trying to keep as many people working as possible. They don't want to have to lay people off. Obviously, there are people who will not be working. And that's a sad, unfortunate fact of all of this. However, they're doing the best they can. And I'm just hoping that the state of Kentucky doesn't make a horribly statist decision, start picking who can work and who cannot, because that happens, then they start making whiskey barrels, and then I will be gainfully unemployed while I'm waiting for everything to clear up. So that's just kind of where everything is right now, and it's absolutely scary. People talk about the Patriot Act after 9/11. The Patriot Act didn't just happen. The Patriot Act existed for a number of years. It's just they were waiting for the right time. And I want to get a few other things after a quick break, and I will be right back. This is Tyler from Relentless Daring, and I am launching the brand new RelentlessDaring.com merch shop. Instead of having to go to a third-party vendor, now you can do everything right there at RelentlessDaring.com. If you want to buy merch, go to RelentlessDaring.com/shop, and there you can get hats, you can get t-shirts, you can get hoodies, you can get coffee cups, you can get stickers. Go there today to show your love for the Relentless Daring podcast, and as always, stay relentless. Oh my goodness, why do I always do this? I have this huge problem of trying to come back in and forgetting that I've turned my mic down. I really need a real producer. The guy sitting over next to me is just absolutely losing my mind. Yes, I said the person next to me is losing my mind. That was not a miscue. There's a little chat box going on during that little break. Kim was asking how Steve was doing, and I jumped in there and said, I'm doing great. Drinking moonshine. I just had to give her a hard time. Oh, man. But, so, another thing that broke, and this is one of the age-old things that's bothered me for, well, as long as I can remember. And that is the question of how do you go to Washington, D.C. as a thousandaire? You have maybe six figures to your name because you've been a successful business person. You have 5 figures to your name because you're a bartender. And we can tell, Steve says he can tell how I'm doing just by listening to me rant. Yeet, yeet. But anyways, people go to D.C. as a senator, as a congressman, and okay, they've got some money to their name. But then by the time they leave D.C., they're millionaires. It's odd. Well, it turns out that for a long time, that if you were in Congress, you could use information that you got during, non-public briefings to go, this looks like a really good time to go buy stock. Ooh, that doesn't look good. I might want to sell some stuff off for that particular business. And for a long time, it was legal. But then there was an author, a great journalist by the name Peter Schweizer, who wrote a book and exposed all of this. And then Congress went, "Oh my gosh, this is just absolutely awful. We can't be doing this." And so they went through and they made it illegal for about 2 years. And then an act of bipartisanship, a Democrat-controlled Congress gutted that bill. Then a Republican-controlled Senate proceeded to gut the bill. And then said gutted bill was signed by President Barack Obama. Now, I'm not saying that, laying any blame on a former president. the bill came to his desk, and he determined that it was a bill worth signing, so he approved it. But it also left it to where it was now legal for people like, Senator Dianne Feinstein, and these three other senators or congresspeople who went and said, oh, well, COVID-19 is going to do a complete and total number on the economy. We might want to sell our stocks. Now, one of them, Senator Loeffler, I will give her credit that she actually has some paperwork that shows that she did not make the decision to sell her stocks. The hidden amendment. Congress shall make no law that has actual repercussions for members of Congress. Yes. I believe that's written in invisible ink on the back of the Constitution. It's attached to the Good and Plenty Clause. Also written in invisible ink. Yeah, you squirt some lemon juice on it, hit it with a hair dryer. It's complicated. If you want to know how it works, just go watch National Treasure, the Nicolas Cage movie. It's a very educational, great documentary. But with Senator Loeffler, she actually has documentation. It kind of shows that this is a decision that was made out of her hands. And then Kim says, actually, I think it extends to elitists in general. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the better politically connected you are, the less likely you are to face any sort of consequences. Unless you're politically connected, but, to the wrong political side of the spectrum. But, it leaves room with all this that if a business is getting ready to have an IPO, an initial public offering, and they go to Congress and they go to their congressman who maybe they're working on a bill that could have negative repercussions for this business. And they say, hey, we're getting ready to go public with our stock options. The thing is, this bill you're working on, oh man, it would just do some horrible, horrible things to our business. But if you were to vote against it, I could sell you some pre-IPO stocks for well under budget or for well under value. And so, okay, they go to vote in the committee, and they vote to kill the bill. And so they buy a bunch of stocks for a couple grand. Then it gets their IPO, and the $2,000 worth of stock now suddenly becomes $1 million worth of stock. So they just took a bribe of $998,000 to kill a bill. But no, it's not a bribe. You're right. If I took $998,000 in a shoebox, said here you go, that's a bribe. But offering them a really good deal, it's not a bribe. It's also confusing in whatever congressional legalese they choose to use. But so then you have someone like Dianne Feinstein. Well, my stocks are in a blind trust, which was accurate. All of her stocks are in a blind trust. I'm sure being managed quite wonderfully by her driver, the spy from China. However, the problem is when her husband sells off his stocks and you know, his stocks aren't in a blind trust, and the stocks that he sells off are going to be directly affected by, whatever they were briefed on in that secret meeting. That just seems a little odd. I mean, apparently, this isn't the first time she has played fast and loose with these kind of laws and about using insider information to kind of, pad your accounts. Anyways, I'm reading this article here. The name getting the most attention, Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, whose committee was getting daily briefs on the threat of the new coronavirus. Is Dianne Feinstein secretly an older Green Hornet? No, because the Green Hornet actually had some principles and values. And I'm pretty sure that Cato was not a spy. He just happened to be Chinese. It was pure coincidence. I know. It's hard to believe that there can actually be coincidences in this world. There's people who don't believe it, but Cato was not a spy, and he is not the driver for Dianne Feinstein. Sorry, I hate to kill your little conspiracy theory there, Kim. But we're going to leave the Green Hornet out of this. Besides, his car was awesome. You do. 4 U.S. senators reportedly sold off a combined millions of dollars in stock prior to the market crash from the coronavirus pandemic. According to multiple independent reports, the name getting most attention, Senator Richard Burr, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who dumped more than $1 million of stock after reassuring public about officials' response to what's now the coronavirus pandemic. The sell-off by the Republican senator from North Carolina came around the time he and the committee were getting daily briefs on the threat of the new virus, news outlets reported. According to ProPublica, oh yes, good old ProPublica, they're as accurate in their reporting as, say, Media Myrmidons. I mean, Media Matters. I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from. Bunch of troglodytes over there. According to ProPublica, in more than 30 different transactions, Burr dumped between $628,000 and $1.72 million of his holdings on February 13th, a significant percentage of his stocks. The stock market started a sharp downturn about a week after his unloading, and Wall Street has lost many gains it earned during Trump presidency. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. NPR also reported on Thursday that in a second recording it obtained last month, Burr had warned a small group of well-connected constituents weeks ago of the financial and other effects of COVID-19. Which, to his credit, I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate to this article. It is also very well... Man, Tyler, who knew you had such an extensive vocabulary? I know, I found a thesaurus one day, and I started reading it, and started learning all these different similes, and, words that mean other things. It's great. They can use in replacement of something else. It's great. I know. Letting it sink in that I did that on purpose. Because being facetious is fun. But anyways, to play devil's advocate, he could have also been, being a pragmatist and saying, hey, I don't know what the effects are going to be, but they could not be as good as what we're saying as part of the party line. Facetious? Oh my God. Facetious? You? No way. I know, it's a lot like when the inspector walks into the casino on Casablanca and says, I am shocked to find gambling here in Casablanca. Shocked, I say. And then here comes the doorman hands the inspector his, you're winning, sir. Oh, thank you. And he walks off, and leaving a rather confused Humphrey Bogart. But it's possible he could have been hedging his bets. Inside, friends and donors are like, come on, is it possible this could have negative effects? Yeah, you never know with these things. I mean, look what's going on in China. Apple's shutting down plants and all of this. I mean, like I said, he could have been, talking up one way and then in private saying what he actually felt, which none of us has ever done that before. Burr said on Twitter Thursday that Americans were already warned about the effects of the virus when he made his speech to North Carolina State Society. Quote, "The message I shared with my constituents is the one public health officials urged all of us to heed as coronavirus spread increased," Burr wrote. Quote, "Be prepared." Burr sent out tweets before reports of his stock sales. A spokesperson for the senator said in a statement that Burr, quote, "has been deeply concerned by the steep and sudden toll this pandemic is taking on our economy," end quote, and supports congressional efforts to help the economy. The spokesperson declined to be identified in order to share the senator's thinking. A separate statement, Burr said he, quote, "relied solely on public news reports to guide my decision regarding the sale of stocks on February 13th. I closely followed CNBC's daily health and science reporting out of its Asia bureaus at the time. Understanding the assumptions many could make in hindsight, however, I spoke this morning with the chairman of the Senate Ethics Committee and asked him to open a complete review of the matter with full transparency," end quote. And it goes on and talks about Senator Kelly Loeffler, Republican Georgia, new senator who is up for re-election this year, sold off hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock late January as senators began to get briefings on the virus. The Daily Beast. Oh, hold on a second. I'm going to try to get through this. The Daily Beast reports. Man. I had to strike off. Man, maybe I've got the Rona. Who knows? The Daily Beast reports Loeffler and her husband sold stock on January 24th. The same day, the Senate Health Committee received a briefing on the coronavirus from the Director of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and Dr. Anthony Fauci, Director of the National Institutes of Health. Loeffler tweeted about the briefing the same day, saying she appreciated the briefing. Not going to read the tweet. Kim, wouldn't it help the economy to keep your stocks instead of selling them? One would think, at least when when the AI that helps control a lot of the buying and selling of stocks, when it doesn't see $1.72 million worth of stocks getting sold, it's not going to cause all of the systems to go on a selling spree and start causing points to lose or points to drop. Steve says, yeah, but it hurts their wallet. That's the only thing that's important. Well, because they obviously don't want to, ride out the tough times and have $1 million worth of stock turn to zero, especially if the business collapses. And I understand going, holy crap, this is going to be bad. I'm taking my money out of the stock market. It's just one of those things that, to quote one Doc Thompson, I certainly understand it, but I don't condone it. And I'll say the thing about with Loeffler, like I said, she has the paperwork to show that this is a decision that was made by managers, and it could actually be purely coincidental that the day they started getting briefings was the day this stuff started selling. Because you have to look, when all of her stuff was selling, it was still 2-3 weeks almost before the stock market started going down. So there's enough of a window there, enough of a gap to show that, I don't think she was doing this because it was so far out in front that what they were being told in January may have been something completely different than what they were being told, just 3 weeks later. Because as this virus outbreak has been going on, we have learned so much more. Like, we've learned that there's a malaria drug that's been around for 40 years that seems to have a really good effect on people suffering from severe cases of infection. Now, granted, if you do get the Rona, you're probably going to get told, stay home, get plenty of rest, drink lots of fluids. Kind of like you would be told if you had a severe case of the flu, but, weren't hospitalized for it. Kim says, I'm on it, and I am concerned of the shortages. Well, fortunately, I think Israel, I saw a report, is going to be sending like 6 million tablets over to us. And this is a problem where, when you have the majority of your medical logistics come from China, who is having a bit of a snit fit over the fact that Donald Trump keeps calling this the Wuhan virus, the China virus, the Chinese coronavirus. And they're threatening to withhold medical supplies to include drugs from us. That's a bit of a problem. And then you're also going to deal with the people who are who have mild cases, trying to get doctors to give this malaria drug to them. And again, they're going to get they have a mild case, and it's not going to do them a lot of good. It's the old axiom about killing a mosquito with a cannon. I am not going to give medical advice because I'm not a doctor. However, again, as I said earlier, if you have a mild case of coronavirus infection, if you're not exhibiting symptoms such as, pneumonia, difficulty breathing, if you have a cough, running a fever, headache, you're probably going to get told to treat it the same way you would with a mild case of the flu. Go home, plenty of rest, plenty of fluids. Not a whole lot to go with there. But anyways, all this stuff is changing rapidly. And I'm not even getting to the other two. I already talked about Dianne Feinstein's husband. I don't even know who this fourth person is, just because it means about that much to me. But anyways, again, that's probably going to... no, that is going to do it for the show. Tonight's show has been sponsored by the good friend of mine, Zach Norman, down at Cedar Hill Woodworking. Cedar Hill Woodworking, they do custom woodworking. They make dice towers for all your Dungeons & Dragons games. He does the custom laser etching on the outside of them. It's great designs. He does 3D printing for tabletop games like the Dungeons & Dragons, the Warhammer 40,000, that kind of stuff. He makes paint stands out of wood that you can put all your model paints in. Amazing work. If you go to Etsy.com and search Cedar Hill Woodworking, all one word, check out his stuff there. It's absolutely great. And also, don't forget to check out the Relentless Daring merch shop. That is relentlessdaring.com/shop. Go there and check out the cool stuff we have there. I just said I'm not giving out any kind of medical advice, Pete. I would keep that one to yourself. Maybe share it with your doctor and any partners you're with. But anyways, awesome. Thank you guys so much for showing up, coming out, having a good time with me. This has been great. Again, if you want to help support the show, again, go to relentlessdaring.com/shop, and you can, get hats, t-shirts, coffee cups, stuff like that. And also, you can go to patreon.com/relentlessdaring1 and sign up to become a patron there. Everything goes back into the show, hopefully making it better for you, hopefully making it better for me, either or, preferably better for you. Go out and just become a patron, help support the show. Everything I'm doing is because you all make me want to do it. It's the only way I can give back to you is just to keep doing this. Thank you so very much. And as always, stay relentless.